Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Comic Conspiracy. A little bit late this week. Oh fuck, we have no regular schedule. Let's just.
It's not us.
Stop pretending it is.
It's not us. It's our parents.
It's our parent. It's our parent company.
It's our single parent. Geekbucks keeps screwing us up.
Geekbucks screwed us again.
I was supposed to be on this week, but
I know,
no.
and I wasn't supposed to be on this week. Also, we had power outage at the store. We had girlfriends to pick up at the airport. We had miscommunication. We had people out for work. It's 9:30 at night and we're recording this podcast. Normally I'm like already
so all the listeners know, your girlfriend and my girlfriend are both pissed off at us sitting by a fire.
Yeah, so now we are literally going to make this one of our shorter episodes because we gotta get the hell out of here. My name is Ryan Higgins.
And I'm Brock Sager.
A minute into this podcast, we should probably say who we are in case anyone's listening for the first time. If so, there's 24 fabulous other episodes for you to listen to at www.geekbox.net. You can go listen to all this previous episodes there. Mm-hmm. So this week, next week, we decided, since this is the last week of the new 52 books, next week, me, Brock, and Toby, one of my employees here, we're going to sit down and go over each and every book real quick, kind of like a 1-2 minute topic on each title.
A minimum of like 2 to 5 minutes. Some books will
2 to 5 minutes per book puts us at around about a 2.5-3 hour episode, if not longer. So
I think some books will get a small little blurb, and other books will probably get a little bit more.
We'll see if we can squeeze them all into one episode. We'll see how long it takes. After an hour, we'll see how far we are.
Maybe we should just spread it out,
over
do 13
weeks.
a week for 4 weeks.
Nah, then in that case, we should just done it the weeks the books actually came out.
Yeah, but then that would have been a week late, and you're not caught up.
Yeah, I haven't read anything from this week yet.
I've read like 11 from this week.
Well, now you have to read the ones you haven't read.
I'm not going to read those.
Terrible. Well,
you conned Toby into reading those.
So next week we'll have a nice all 52 kind of review episode. I know we talked about a handful of them already, but last few weeks we really haven't. We'll kind of go through and give you our thoughts. Generally speaking, thumbs up, but more on that next week. We got a few emails we want to read here.
Mm-hmm.
Brock?
This is from Julian Titus. He says, "Hey guys, love the show. Like a lot of other people, I just got back into buying monthly comics with the new 52. I haven't read DC comics since they canceled Impulse and Young Justice, so I am new to Grant Morrison's writing, and I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. Understandable. Since Batman's continuity has not changed in this rejiggered universe, thank you. I decided to get a couple of trades to bring me up to speed."
That's why I gave you this email to read.
I know. I decided to get a couple of trades to bring me up to speed on the Bat. I picked up Morrison and Quietly's Batman and Robin, Batman Reborn, and really didn't care for it. And I think my issue is the weird habit that Morrison has of giving characters guttural sound effects, etc. Guttural, yeah. I noticed it in Action 1, but it was all over the place in Batman and Robin and really got on my nerves. That and the way he seems to put every sentence in a different word bubble. But I know that Ryan is a huge Morrison fan, and I'm willing to give the guy a chance. So my question is, what trades would you guys recommend as a good introduction into Morrison? I assume he's mostly a DC writer, and I'm looking to learn more about the DC characters in general. Thanks a lot, guys, and keep up the great work. He also writes, "P.S. I wrote a piece on the first 4 weeks of the new 52 for Metal Arcade. I would love for you two to read it and let me know what you think. It's my first time writing about comics. I usually stick to games writing." So there's a link here, and we'll both check it out, and I'll post the link up on the blog, and you're going to post it on the forum thing.
We'll post that link up real quick.
But Morrison, introduction to Morrison.
Morrison 101.
Lots of drugs, and booze is a good way to get ready to... Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can go.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you go.
Okay. Well, the early intro to Grant Morrison would be Animal Man, which I know, Brock, you started to read.
Also Invincibles.
I'm just not saying specifically Batman, just his early work. He did some work for 2000 AD and some European and Scottish comics. But Animal Man was really his first big work here, and that was a DC Vertigo. Moving on after that, he did a number of books. I would not recommend Invisibles to someone who's not currently a Grant Morrison fan, because that book's very difficult to read. But I would definitely read his 90s run on Justice League of America, JLA. In fact, the very first softcover trade paperback collection of his run was reissued today. Very nice collection. Should pick that up. The hardcovers are super nice if you can find them, but definitely check out the soft.
Well, you said the soft covers had the non-Morrison issues in them.
Yeah, Morrison ran 44 issues, I believe. There were a couple fill-in arcs with Mark Waid. I think Tom Pater did an issue or two. So these fill-ins are not in the Grant Morrison hardcover collections, but they are in the JLA softcover collections.
Yeah.
As far as Batman, I mean, he's basically dictated the direction of Batman for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
His writing style, it's different. I really like it. I think it works because I think I like it so much because it's different. The start of Batman is really Batman and Son. I mean, that is his first run on Batman.
Yeah.
If you want to read it, that's where to start. I think Morrison, a lot of people, much like David Lynch, a famous director of Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive and a bunch of movies, often gets accused of being weird for weird's sake, and I don't think that's ever a fair comparison. I think Grant Morrison falls into the same thing. I think he knows exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
The fans a lot of times don't, especially in something like Final Crisis, where you basically have to have a dictionary of Jack Kirby's New Gods next to you while reading this book in order for it to make a lot of sense. Blaming the reader for not getting it is when some readers like myself absolutely do get it because I put the time and effort into it. I think that he can be a very rewarding read a lot of the times. I mean, he's my favorite, if not my absolute favorite writer. I love him. He writes stuff like no one else does. I really think it's worth getting into. I mean, clearly, if you read a handful of stuff and you don't like anything, I mean, don't bother continuing. He's not going to get any different. This is the way he writes.
Well, I got back into, when I came back about 4 years ago to the shop, that's when Morrison started on the Batman books. And I remember there being like an virtually, I think it was Batman had an all like prose issue.
Yeah, that issue with the Joker.
The one with the Joker. And it was really hard to read. Like I didn't actually finish reading it, but I kept picking up the Batman books and reading them.
Yeah, that issue I thought was okay. I mean, his prose isn't as strong as his comic work, but I have no problem with it.
But his stuff in Batman is really, really good. Yeah. His stuff, I can understand why in Batman and Robin, because in Batman and Robin, he kind of gets a little bit more freedom than he does with the regular Batman title.
Well, reading it really is a good place to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Read through Final Crisis, read Batman and Robin. I'm going to give you a real quick reading list here. You can find this. Many places have these timelines. This one I'm pulling off Comic Book Resources. Batman Comics Help thread. Specifically, it's Batman and Son, which is where they introduce his son.
Yeah.
Who had been born many years ago. Batman Black Glove, which was a really cool arc featuring the Batman of kind of the past and his League of Heroes grouped up. Beautiful art by J.H. Williams. Let's see, going down the list here. Batman R.I.P., which is Batman's kind of final battle again. Well, at the time, final battle. Into Final Crisis, where Batman, quote-unquote, dies.
Yes.
With a book like Batman R.I.P., Batman Final Crisis, hopefully you're not confusing the fact that Batman doesn't actually die because he's still around. After that, you probably want to check out actually Neil Gaiman's Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader.
Yeah, that was really good.
Totally, it's not by Grant Morrison. Totally has nothing to do with anything, but is a cool little kind of close on Batman. After that, you go into Batman and Robin Volume 1, Batman Reborn, which is where they introduce Dick becomes the new Batman. Well, technically, it's Battle for the Cowl, which is by Tony Daniel.
Yeah, Battle for the Cowl. The main book is okay, but it's an easier jump.
Spoiler alert.
Well, you already spoiled it.
Dick Grayson becomes
Batman. Yeah.
No shock to anyone. So Batman and Robin Volume 1, Batman and Robin Volume 2, and Batman and Robin Volume... Well, actually, this is interesting. Robin 1, 2... and then Batman Time in the Batman. What the heck? Oh, Time in the Batman is the 3-issue arc that takes place during Final Crisis. I forgot about this. There's a scene in Final Crisis where he's basically kind of getting tortured by Darkseid, there's a 2 or 3 issue arc in Batman where they kind of go back and explain the whole situation of how Batman got from RAP to Final Crisis and what happened. It was actually pretty cool. It's worth reading. I think it should have really been in the books. It should have been written a year prior to this when this actually came out. Then you get the return of Bruce Wayne, and then Batman Must Die, which kind of goes along with Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne coming back. Batman and Robin Must Die is Damian and Dick trying to solve the mystery of where's Bruce Wayne. So those kind of go hand in hand. And then after that, you're up to Batman Incorporated, which will bring you to the current stuff. So, personally, fantastic.
It's one of those things. It just honestly, it really depends on what Morrison stuff you pick up. If you picked up the last issue of Batman Incorporated, where it's this weird CG art and they're stuck inside a computer with all these, I can kind of understand. Or where I started, where it's all this prose and it's really difficult to kind of get through. Or even with Batman and Robin, I had difficulty with some of the Batman and Robin stuff, especially with the pig guy. Mr. Pig.
Oh, I love Pig.
Don't get me wrong. Once I read through it, once you can get through it, then it's worth it.
That was great.
Final Crisis is choppy, but like you said before, those 3 issues that explain things should have been done a year before, because when I read Final Crisis, I was like, what the hell's going on? You read Final Crisis, and then you read the Wikipedia entry, then you read Final Crisis again.
I made the Wikipedia.
Yeah, this is true.
Are you kidding me? I took notes and was documenting everything.
But Grant Morrison...
I think it was actually on Comics Alliance, which is funny enough because it's a site I really hate. But they actually did a really good annotations of Final Crisis.
Because I know when I came in reading Final Crisis, I was like, dude, this is so choppy. He's like, no, it's awesome. It's so cool. But you would read
Well, Batman, they did a great annotation on Batman RIP too, and they really break down some of the stuff. So annotations always help. Look them up. People do them online all the time.
But no, I mean,
much smarter than me. Know a lot more about these things than I do.
Or write at least a little bit more understandable.
Grant Morrison is one of these guys that it's difficult sometimes. But I think
Grant Morrison falls under the writers that are kind of trying to bring back some of those small minor characters that they enjoyed when they were younger, like Johns has done.
Sure.
And kind of bring them back into the DC universe and shed some light on these characters, especially the weird, trippy Batman. What's that? The purple
Batman of Zur-En-Arr.
Yeah, the Batman of Zur-En-Arr.
Best things ever in comic books.
Grant Morrison does that, and I'm currently reading Super Gods. I'm about halfway through, but reading Super Gods, his language is very, very intellectual. But reading it, it's not his prose is not as choppy as his comic book writing, because I think his writing style, it's almost as if an artist can't get to where he needs. Morrison can't get an artist to get where he needs to get them. But not just for Batman, but his run with All-Star Superman with Frank Quitely was an amazing read in itself. That one wasn't as choppy. He seems to get choppier when he gets a little more freedom. But when he's kind of limited to what a character needs, I loved Action Comics #1. When he kind of focuses a little bit more, it's better. So. But there's a lot of stuff out there to read, but I can understand your dislike. But like Ryan said, start from the beginning is probably the better part to get in.
Oh, and Batman Arkham Asylum. Don't forget that too.
I haven't read that one.
You're a monster.
I know.
We got another email here from Marco. It's funny, before we started the podcast, Brock was asking me about talking about numbers, and I was like, I don't want to talk about numbers. And then I got this email asking about numbers. So I want to talk about this for a minute. He says, hey guys, I was wondering how much total profit do comic shops make off each comic sold? So let's use a $2.99 comic for reference. How much of that has to be paid to the publisher? How much does the store keep after expenses are paid, publisher, transport, whatever else? She continues. Yesterday I read the #1 issue of Severed, and man, it was good. However, saddened to find out there will only be 7 issues in total. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Severed. I still got 1 and 2 sitting in my stack. I gotta read it. Anyway, profit for comic books. It's not standardized or anything like that. The discounts vary wildly.
Well, don't they vary based on variant covers and whatever the?
No, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, this is all pretty public information. I don't believe I'm spoiling any secret retailer knowledge here by talking about this real quick. But roughly, Diamond Comics, which is Diamond Comics, which is the major distributor for comics, product is the discounts range between 35% and 57%. So if something costs us $10, it can be a 35% discount off of $10, or as high as something like 50. Roughly, if you want to kind of ballpark it a lot, you're talking 50% off most items. A lot of stores on the comic books will have a higher discount on the comic book ratio, but a lot of discounts are capped at a lower discount, especially when it comes to like toys and statues. You wonder why stores don't want to discount statues or toys. It's because we don't make shit on them.
No.
Just the profit margin is so low. But do keep in mind these books are universally, with very rare exception, non-returnable. So this isn't like a bookstore where we can return stuff for credit with the distributor. We can return stuff to the publishers. Everything we buy. The comic store is bought. We are the customer for the distributor, and we are Marvel's customer. You are not Marvel's customer. This is actually something that a lot of people don't seem to get. You are our customer. If you buy from a shop, you're their customer. You don't buy anything from Marvel. The shop owns all the books. Marvel doesn't take anything back. DC rarely takes stuff back. We're now in this part where the New 52 books are returnable, a good portion of them. So that's actually really cool on DC's part. It doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, a lot of shops will offer discounts in order to keep the subscribers and keep customer base around, so you can knock a little bit off there. But, roughly stores are going to make between 30 to 50% on a title. So if it costs you $3, say generally speaking, the store is paying $1.50. So
yeah,
but when we overorder, we get stuck with every copy.
Yep.
When we sell out, you make money. But when I've talking a lot about this on Twitter the last week or two. Ordering like 3 or 4 copies of a book, you basically have to sell 100% of the books in order to keep any profit, in order to profit at all.
Yeah.
Because if you're buying 3 books, or you're buying 4 books, you're paying $3, so $6. You sell 3 of them, you sell them for $9. So you're making a $3 profit. But then when you count in discounts, when you count in bags and boards, if the store doesn't charge for them, man hours in order to process 3 comics to sell, there's no money in that. So things like the New 52 that are selling in huge quantities, there's actual profit in there for stores. Most stores operate on a razor's edge, where if you don't sell out of 95 to 98% of your product, you're actually not going to profit.
Yeah.
So it's a very tight margin on a lot of this stuff. It's not like cost us 50 cents or 25 cents and we sell them for $3-4. Nothing like that. So, I think, they're not cheap. They're not cheap for us.
You don't know the percentage that DC gets from Diamond?
I don't know specific numbers. I know specifically with Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, and other premier publishers, Diamond is just a they just pass the money along. They just pass the book along. With independent comics, Diamond physically purchases the comic books from them.
Yeah.
So if I have an independent comic, Diamond will say, we will buy 100 copies from you. Diamond pays me. In the case of Marvel and DC, the books ship from the publisher, or they ship from the printer to Diamond. Diamond sorts them, ships them to the comic stores. We send Diamond the money. They take their 5% or whatever and send the rest of the money to Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, IDW, Viz. I don't know who else are premier publishers these days, but yeah. So it's Diamond's just a middleman for those guys. It's really the toys, the statues, the small press.
Diamond's basically the comic distributor.
They are a distributor, but in this case specifically, they're not purchasing any of the books like they are for the small press stuff, toys, statues, games. Those they physically purchase, and then we purchase from them. So in this case, we're buying from Marvel and DC with Diamond, just kind of passing Diamond's the guy in the middle passing the stuff.
Diamond's the logistics.
Basically, they get their 5 or 10% or whatever to deal with being a distributor. Yeah. Well, Marvel had Heroes World back in the 90s. They self-distributed their own books. That was one of the major causes for their bankruptcy. It was a disaster. Yeah. So many problems. They just couldn't handle the logistics of it. So, thank you, Marco. Since we're talking so much of the New 52 in DC next week, we've got a few other things we want to talk about this week. Kind of keep this a DC light episode for all you haters out there.
DC light.
In fact, I want to talk about Marvel for a second, and in fact, I want to praise Marvel for a second.
Oh, jeez.
I never hear this on this podcast, but here we go. They released the Marvel Comics solicitations for December 2011. Brock, I don't believe you've looked at these yet.
Nope.
Have you not seen them?
Nope.
Well, for the most part, and actually, it may not even be for the most part, it may be 100%. There's no crossovers. There's no events. There's, like, not a lot of variant covers. Oh, I'm sorry. There is Avengers X Sanction #1, which is the Jeff Loeb kind of bridging of the X-Men and Avengers team bringing Cable back. This is something that Marvel announced a week or two ago. But even looking down this list, I don't know. I don't see any crossovers. I see 2 issues in a row of Avenging Spider-Man by Joe Mad. Meaning we're led to believe we're going to get 2 issues in a row of this book.
No, that's the first print and then the second.
In the second print
of an unfinished book, right?
Yeah, I'm really not trying to be a dick or anything like that, but I'm when I was going through the solicitations, I was like,
well,
wow, there's no crossovers, there's no tie-ins, this is thank you, Marvel, that's awesome.
Well, the thing is crossover events normally start.
You get your summer events.
You get your summer events, and you
sure.
get like your, or if it's a long event, it normally will start around Christmas time.
But look at what we have right now. Right now, we have Siege. Yep. We have the Ultimate Spider-Man, Death of Spider-Man, relaunch of Spider Books.
Well, Siege is over.
Of Ultimate Books.
Siege is over.
But it's leading into
what Siege?
Huh?
Siege?
Not Siege. Schism, I'm sorry.
We have Schism. We have No Fear. We have...
Oh, now you're just fucking everything up. We have Schism. We have Fear Itself, which is a major crossover.
Dick shit.
We have... apparently Brock has never heard the word dick shit before.
I probably have. It's just you said it last night, and it was really so... Funny. It was just like delivered so perfectly that, man, I think I'm almost going to get a Twitter account just for the shit you say on Tuesday nights.
It'll be like a comic store version of shit my dad says. It'll be shit Ryan says when putting the books out Tuesday nights. I'm swearing my head off trying to get all this stuff sorted out. I'm totally cool when the store's open, but man, when
you turn into like a drunken, dirty sailor when the door closes.
To paraphrase Kramer, when that door closes and locks, I let the expletives fly. Like most people. Fear Itself. Spider Island.
Yeah.
Ultimate Spidey relaunch, Ultimate Fallout, Death of Ultimate Spidey, and Schism. All going on all 4 major crossovers going on, major event crossovers.
Schism isn't really a crossover.
It falls under the event.
Oh, yeah, it's an event. It's not a crossover, but yeah.
I mean, so they have, Marvel's got Battle Scars and the Fearless, which are sort of like the aftermath of Fear Itself books, but they seem fairly self-contained. They're not crossing over to any other books. You've got like the New Defenders book coming out, but again, it's seemingly self-contained. This is something that DC has clearly found success with. Obviously, this month, these nice, self-contained, easy, accessible. Mm-hmm. This is what I need. I don't want 20 Fear Itself and Spider Island crossover books. Like this is great. Well, and there's another thing too. Sorry to interrupt here.
No, it's okay.
With only a couple exceptions, there's only 1 copy of each title coming out this month. There's a few that are double shipping. Marvel's been double shipping a lot of their titles. But I'm looking here, well, there's actually a handful, but it's not as bad as it's been.
Yeah.
There's maybe only 5 or 6 titles double shipping. Marvel was double and triple shipping books all the time. Now, going to the trade paperback section is full of a ton of crap that I'm not going to order, but there's nothing you can do about that. But, yeah, Marvel, seriously, this is what I want. I think this is what readers want. They don't want these Fear Itself and Spider Island miniseries. They don't want constant crossover and events. They really don't.
That's the thing is if you look at what we've gotten from DC in the past few years, I mean, the big events for DC were, going backwards, Brightest Day,
right.
or Flashpoint for all intents and purposes,
right.
Brightest Day, right. Blackest Night. Before that was Trinity.
Yeah,
and then it was, then Countdown, then 52.
Final Crisis.
Final Crisis was in interspersed after Countdown.
Yeah, Countdown, then Final Crisis. Yeah.
So
all the way back to 1 year later.
Mm-hmm. But what they did was starting with 52 4 years ago now?
Well, you also had, I mean, you had a couple family events. You kind of had the Batman family
Well, yeah,
events.
You had the Batman family events, the Superman family
Superman
events.
had his family events. But I never felt like I really never felt like there was too much on the shelf.
No, it was...
There was not like, it's not like, Brightest Day or Blackest Night was competing against Final Crisis or competing against, Superman War and New Krypton. They kind of. I'm okay with events. I'm okay with crossovers, but you got to keep them. You got to make them special. That's why they're a special thing.
That's the thing. Is like with 52, a handful of issues in each book crossed over with it, but that was it. But it was part of what
52?
was 52. Yeah, with 52.
There were no crossovers with 52.
No, there was crossovers with 52 with Action Comics.
52?
Yeah.
The end of 52 led to the 1 year later books. That's the whole point of 52 is there were no crossovers. It was its own title.
Well, then why was like Jimmy Olsen's stories connected, or was that Countdown it was connected to?
Countdown.
Oh yeah, that was connected to. So even like 52 was self-contained on its own.
Countdown had very few crossovers.
Had very few crossovers, but the crossovers that were there weren't too bad. It was kind of family oriented, like you said.
Yeah.
Trinity was something that was completely separate.
Right.
But then you go at Blackest Night, where we have a couple of, what was it, 3, like 9, or 6?
Don't get me wrong, Blackest Night and Blackest Night and Flashpoint have a lot of stuff attached to it.
They have a lot of stuff attached to it, but Blackest Night had only...
But it was one at a time.
Yeah, it was only 6 miniseries.
It was 9.
It was 9?
Yeah. Was it? Oh no, it was 6.
It was 6. It was 6 separate miniseries,
crossovers,
and then there was the 1 or 2 issues that bled over from each book or into each book, like Rebels and Outsiders.
2 issues. Yeah.
Well, not all of them were 2 issues. The cancellation, the ones that were canceled, only had 1 issue.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was kind of, they made it connected in a fun way. It wasn't necessarily something that you had to get to understand it. Whereas more along the lines of like a lot of Marvel stuff, if you don't pick up something. Like Fear Itself, issue 4 was a solicitation for every other Fear Itself mini that was coming out, saying, "Oh, if you want to see what's going on, check this out. If you want to see what's going on, check this out." And
if I'm not mistaken, last month there were 36. I may have to go back and recount, so don't quote me on this, but I believe it was 36 Fear Itself crossovers.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt. And then how many minis?
Well, crossovers and minis.
Yeah, it's like the minis, and it was. Yeah. It's just, to me, it's. The family crossovers are great, right?
Yeah.
Because if I read Green Lantern, I want to read Green Lantern stuff. If I read Batman, I want to read Batman stuff. If I want Spider-Man, I want to read Spider-Man stuff. But when the crossovers just are, it's a crossover with extra minis and all this other extra stuff.
Well, in the case of Spider Island, I think they made a mistake thinking Amazing Spider-Man and the Spider Island event could support like 5 or 6 minis and one-shots and specials of totally unrelated characters, and it just, even if, like, I heard that Avengers one shot was actually halfway decent, it was pretty funny, but it just seems kind of like there's no reason like to have, like, why don't you just have the story in Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, that doesn't need to be an event.
And the thing is for Marvel, I noticed anytime they do an event, the book jumps to $3.99.
And not only that, in the case of like what I was saying before, when I'm only ordering 3 or 4 copies of a book, I'm not profiting. Marvel's not profiting, and that's a clear case with these Fear Itself and Spider Island events. If any store is selling more than half a dozen or a dozen copies, I'd be blown away, because I'm sure Midtown is selling 50 or 60 of them.
It's one of those things where it's selling off the wall, not subscribers. Subscribers are different.
No, it's not selling off anything, is what I'm trying to say. No one's buying this stuff. So Marvel, this is good.
Well, yeah.
Do this.
I mean, I'm hopeful for the new Incredible Hulk by Jason Aaron. I mean, that's coming out.
I love me some Jason Aaron, but his superhero stuff just hasn't. Wolverine's not.
Well, if Wolverine could get away from hell and Ghost Rider could get away from hell,
Yeah, I hope Hulk's awesome, because Jeff Loeb drove that book into the ground, and I don't know why Jeff Parker just never did anything for me on.
Yeah, after, was it War of the Hulks?
Red Hulk stuff. Yeah,
I called who it was pretty much at the beginning. There's 2 people it could have been, and
the Hulk stuff. But no, I hope this new Hulk book is good. I mean, this seems like something Jason Aaron might do really well with.
And I really like Mark Silvestri's artwork, so
yeah. Again, let's see how often he does, how long he's on the title. So,
well, that's about the same as saying Joe Mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, let's get to some non-DC, non-Marvel stuff.
I was going to say, not only is this non-DC, non-Marvel, I mean, we're gonna hit the indie motherload here. Normally, this is the last week of the New 52 stuff this week, leading to a huge week, but we also had what I consider to be 5 fairly substantial other titles shipped to comic stores this week. Your mileage may vary here, but these are all huge things that I think are going to be perennial sellers, for good or for evil, as we kind of get down this list here. And I have not personally had a chance to read more than half, and a few pages. So let's say one and a quarter of these books. But I think these are all things that, if you're not a Marvel and DC fan, these are things worth checking out. And these are some big titles for stuff coming out. So here we go. Brock, I know this is your favorite book of all time.
Dude, I'm going to fall asleep right now.
I know this is your favorite book of all time. You love pretty girls in short dresses.
Seriously?
They're just occasionally
stop
10 years
waving,
old.
Dude, would you stop waving that?
I'm waving.
If you're going to wave something in front of me, wave something with Starfire.
I'm waving. Hey, now I'm waving 2 books in front of Brock here. And totally honestly, these are going to be big books. The first book is hold on.
Wait for it.
Brock's trying to steal these books from me.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
These are possibly some of the most popular manga of all time. We don't deal in a lot of manga here because, well, I was going to say Borders down the road, but they're no longer there. There's actually a major Japanese bookstore not too far from us. But this is, you talk about wanting to get girls in the comics and female readership. This is maybe one of the most popular, if not the most popular, female comic character of all time, rivaling most anything else, and that is Sailor Moon. Kodansha, which is a Japanese company that publishes, they've actually published them here in America with a good translation, actual non-edited pages, front to right to left, so the original Japanese format. They've released 2 books here this week. The first is Sailor Moon Volume 1. The second is Sailor V, codenamed Sailor V Volume 1, which I believe manga people correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Sailor V has actually never been released here. Now, clearly, this is not a book for everyone. Sailor Moon is, it's very, very popular anime from the late 80s, 90s. Very female-oriented, but actually has a large male fan base.
Well, again, short skirts.
Pretty girls in short skirts,
yeah.
Regardless of their age, tends to draw a bit of a male audience.
At least they're not 7.
But this is really one of those things when you talk about anime and manga in the U.S., Sailor Moon was a huge, colossal hit that still to this day can be felt. And this is one of those books this book's been out of print for 15 years or something ridiculous.
That's awesome.
I'm really happy to see this stuff.
That's awesome.
Brock has opened his first manga comic ever, probably, and has seen the back page that tells
I opened it in the correct way.
That tells you to stop and turn the book around the other way because it doesn't read the way American books are read.
To start at the beginning, go to the end.
Yes.
This is why kids pick it up, because they want to read the end first.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, I'm super happy to see these in print. It's not something I expect to ever sell a ton of here, but I think...
You got a decent special order.
We got a handful
of
special orders for them, yeah, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm really excited to see. I hope this book does well. I really hope Kodansha continues to put this stuff out. They're putting out Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex. They're putting out a handful of the manga, real popular manga stuff that's popular in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen...
To non-comic book, to non-manga fans, there is a lot of stuff that they've been putting out that is, Akira, Ghost in the Shell, stuff that is popular to regular comic book readers.
Well, working in the high school, a lot of kids read manga.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And because I think it's a very, it's good, but it's very simple in what it does. But it's good.
Yeah.
So it's not something that's up my alley.
Yeah.
But I would not, say no, you can't read that to some kid. If they want to pick this up and read it, go for it. But yeah nice little pocket-sized.
Yeah, editions. Most it's a little bit bigger than the standard Viz in Tokyo Pop size. If you're familiar with that size, it's more standard to the Del Rey.
How's the price?
It's $10.99.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, manga runs between $7.99 and $10.99. That's about the average price. they're really keeping this in standard with the American format of manga trades. Fantastic books. I really hope these things find an audience, and it's good to see some of this older stuff selling. I hope. Well,
hopefully,
pick it up.
Yeah, hopefully, it can at least be available to order because we're not necessarily going to stock it, but if we can at least order it and get it for people.
It is one of those books that I am definitely willing to stock at the store.
Nice.
At least for the handful of first 6 volumes or whatever. I mean, there's only 13 or 14 volumes. I don't remember how long it runs. Maybe I won't stock the whole thing. But we stock a small amount of manga that I do like, some 20th Century Boys and Blade of the Immortal and Akira, Ghost in the Shell. I mean, there's a handful of stuff, and I will gladly add this to the small section. And I hope this finds a fan base both here and in other stores, because it'll bring in an audience that the comic stores desperately need.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to cough in the mic here. This next one I know I sold to a very, very grateful Justin Haywald last night. It already came out in other places, so I guess it's okay that I sold it last night. See, I didn't think about that. I totally didn't even think about that at all.
I heard you saying that the whole time.
Diamond, I really didn't break any sort of street date with this, I swear to God. It was like after midnight, I swear.
Submit a tip to Bleeding Cool.
This is Habibi, the new Craig Thompson book. Craig Thompson, most well previously known for Goodbye Chunky Rice and Blankets.
Which is on my list to get, but it's a big book.
Yeah. Just because I have not read this, I will give you the back cover little string here. Let's say Habibi. It's a sprawling... I'm sorry. And I'm fucked up on the first word. Sprawling across an epic landscape of deserts, harems, and modern industrial clutter, Habibi tells the tale of Dodola and Zam, refugee child slaves bound to each other by chance, by circumstance, and by the love that grows between them. This is from what I understand, Craig Thompson did a lot of research on Christianity, Islam. Really, it's kind of a modern-day take on, like a kind of classic love story, but using definitely hot topic issues.
Well, hey, we need to read this. Neil Gaiman quoted on it.
Oh, of course.
He said it was moving, tender, beautifully drawn, painfully honest, and probably the most important graphic novel since Jimmy Corrigan.
Yeah. Blankets, I tried. It falls under that it's not for me category. It's just a little too emo, a little too navel gazing. It was just not something that I really cared for.
Well, it pops up on a lot of independent reading lists for graphic novels. I read 30, 40
pages of it before I picked it up, and I bought it, and then I was like, I just have not read it yet, so I will finish. I will actually sit down and read the whole thing. But this looks interesting. I do want to pick this up. It'd be interesting to see how kind of mainstream press this gets. I'm pretty sure this hit bookstores last week or 2 weeks ago. So we just got it now. So this is, again, Blankets is a huge, huge hit. Huge bookstore, huge Amazon seller. Huge hit for the independent comic crowd. He's going to be up at Ape this weekend if you're in San Francisco signing. So yeah.
Oh wait, we have Ape this weekend?
Ape is this weekend. I haven't been to Ape in years.
I've never been to Ape.
You'd like it once.
I'd like it once.
Yeah, Ape is the alternative press expo.
Yeah.
It used to be here in San Jose. It's moved up to San Francisco. Got bought by Comic-Con. I used to go all the time. I just found that I kind of saw a lot of the same stuff every time I went, and there hasn't been a lot of new indie books that have really grabbed me. So I'm kind of out of touch. So I took a few years off. I do want to go back at some point, though. The other book, maybe the most beautiful book.
Let's do that one last. Do it last.
Okay.
I don't want to end on that.
Okay. Oh, I wanted to end on the absolute worst.
I didn't want to end on that.
The other book I'm telling you, which is the absolute worst book published this week. No other book could possibly match this. This book is called Frank Miller's Holy Terror.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Now, Frank, beautiful Frank Miller. Some of you may remember him from such classics as Batman and Robin, All-Star Batman and Robin, the Spirit movie. He did things like Sin City and Batman Dark Knight Returns, blah, 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 blah. But let's be honest, Frank Miller is the most insane person working in comic books currently. Totally honestly, Frank Miller is up until the mid-late 90s, was a genius, one of the best creators in the comic book industry.
Yeah.
But he's... I think it's fair to say he's gone off his rocker.
It's not necessarily I think he's gone off his rocker. I think he's been out of the business doing other things so much that coming back in, he doesn't have that freshness.
He hasn't... Well, this is a problem that a lot of creators fall into. They don't really change, and they kind of become parodies of themselves.
Yeah.
You take a look at the character. You take a look at some of the big creators from the 70s. Well, let's go back even further. You take a look at guys like Stan Lee that were big, huge forces in the 60s. By the time they hit the 80s and 90s, it was old, it was dated, seen it before, it's kind of goofy. Well, when you look at the guys from the 70s, John Byrne, you look at a lot of these creators, Chris Claremont, as they go forward, they don't keep up with the times. They don't really change. They kind of become a parody of themselves, and their modern work does not hit the highs that their older work does. Frank Miller, being a comic guy in the late 70s, early 80s, he's sort of fallen into that same thing. He has some amazing comics that even through the end of Sin City, I mean, fantastic books. But the stuff he's released over the last decade or so has been the most craziest stuff I've ever read. All-Star Batman and Robin is like, what? Dark Knight Strikes Back, or Dark Knight Strikes Again, just totally lunatic sequel to Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And now Holy Terror, this was originally supposed to be a Batman versus Osama bin Laden comic book that he pitched to DC back right after September 11th, 2001. DC wisely passed, and now 10 years later, we're getting Frank Miller's Holy Terror by Legendary Comics. It is no way anything other than Batman and Catwoman. They are clearly Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah.
Having sex on top of a rooftop for many, many, many pages, and then are attacked by Al Qaeda. This is as mind-bogglingly crazy as it sounds. His art is what his art is. His art is still nice.
His art is still clean, crisp. It looks...
Well, hold on. Is your definition of clean and crisp different than my definition of...
What the fuck is this?
Clean and crisp? Well, we'll get to that page in a second.
No, for me, clean and crisp means it follows under his art style, where it's...
because it is not clean in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's not clean or crisp. It's clean and crisp in the sense of his art style is his art style, and it still flows with how it...
Frank Miller has an incredibly dirty art style. It's super crazy. It's all white out, just... little splashes of color.
But this page he loses me.
Oh, every page he loses it. And so this book is mind-bogglingly crazy as you could possibly imagine. This falls under Frank Miller apologists only. I read about the first half. I got to the part where Al Qaeda actually attacked them, and I'm like, what? I can't. But you know what? This is going to be a huge seller. We've sold a handful of copies today. There are still some people out there that love Frank Miller. Frank, he did some great stuff back in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, and he's just gone. He's got cool layouts. It's got a cool look. Brock's flipping through it right now. Yeah. There's neat looking things in there, but this is just a book.
That page looked like it was Sin City mixed with 300.
That's exactly what it is. Only 300 is a perfect example of something he did a little bit later. I thought was really good.
Yeah, I love 300. I picked it up in single issue.
Yeah,
as it was coming out back. 10 years ago now?
A little bit, a little longer than that.
And just for me it was something where I was breaking away from superheroes and the Vertigo kind of style of like fantasy stuff and getting more along the lines of like history and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed 300. But yeah, I really enjoy the Sin City world that he created, and I've read most of them. I don't think I read Hell and Back. I don't think I read that whole arc. But I really enjoyed his Sin City stuff. But yeah, again, this is... it's literally splash page after splash page after splash page.
Well, that's what he does.
But it does have an audience.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Going from the ugliest comic book this week to probably the most gorgeous comic book this week is the beautiful James Jean Rebus hardcover Art of James Jean book. This thing is incredible. Chronicle books clocking in $45. Got to be 200 pages. The thing's a beast. James Jean is the phenomenal artist, cover artist of Fables. Has done all sorts of design work and painted work. He did work for Prada, if I'm not mistaken. He designed some stuff for them. He's done tons of stuff. I mean, Fables is how comic book people will know him. He's since stopped doing the cover art on that, but this is just incredible. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I believe this is a collection of the Process Recess books, which are a couple art books he did. I believe it has a lot of the material that were in those, and then current stuff as well. Those Process Recess books, if you look on eBay, go $400, $500, $600 a pop. They've been out of print forever. This is a book. Do not pass on this book. It is beautiful. James Jean is an incredible artist. And, you don't hear us talking about art books a lot on here because there's kind of not a lot to talk about because you can't really discuss story and plot. But if anyone deserves to be talked about on a podcast is James Jean. And this book is amazing.
Well, my girlfriend...
Because you picked up the Fables cover.
I haven't actually picked it up yet.
No, you did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
I'm like 99% sure you
I am 99% sure I didn't.
Well, you've looked through it
I've looked through it. Well,
okay,
no, I was going to pick it up, but they released it.
Right.
But yeah, this is probably something I'm definitely going to have to get for Callie because she's, if anything, Callie got immersed with Fables just from the cover art on the graphic novels.
Absolutely.
James Jean, beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
I was looking in here for the publication history, but it doesn't seem to have that page, in the book where it says this was originally published as this. So you might be right that this might be a reprint of the previous one?
Process Recess.
Process Recess stuff?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's not a reprint. I mean, it's a new book, but what I think it takes a lot of that material and puts it into it uses a lot of that material from those books plus a lot of current stuff because it goes through 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, each page should have some sort of annotation or note of where it's from or what it is, a little text piece of kind of what it was done from, or maybe not, I don't know. But I think a lot of them would, so...
Very, very interesting art style.
Absolutely.
Very, very. That's why he's on a Vertigo book.
Was on a Vertigo book.
Yeah.
All right, Brock. Let's call this podcast a wrap. I'm gonna go home. Let's do some random picks
and then try and get out with our outro.
I got one that I already talked about briefly, but I'll officially random pick it here if you want a minute to decide.
Yes, please.
Definitely gonna recommend the JLA Volume 1 trade paperback that came in this week. Mostly by Grant Morrison and Howard Porter. However, it also includes co-writing credits from Comic Conspiracy's favorite writer of all time, Mark Miller. Oscar Jimenez also does a number of couple pencil and art pages. So this is a collection of the first... Let me see.
1 through 7.
First 9 issues
of
JLA, which should go through. Issue 9 should go through the Green Arrow story arc, plus the JLA Secret Files #1.
Nice.
We talked about Grant Morrison earlier this episode, and this is, in my mind, this was the book that got me back into mainstream comic books. Mainstream being Marvel and DC superhero books. At this point, I was reading a lot of Vertigo. I was reading a lot of independent comics. This really was the thing that kind of pushed me back because I was like, holy crap, that crazy guy that did Invisibles is now writing Justice League. I have to read this. I kept up on some books, but not the majority of them. And this really cemented me back as a real DC fan. And I can specifically point to this JLA as being the thing that got me back into comics that I hadn't been into the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot of independent stuff, but really this is what got me. So if you want to blame why we talk about DC so much on this podcast, you can blame this trade paperback. If you want to become me and love DC, this is the book for you. So JLA Volume 1.
I actually need to pick it up.
Go buy it.
My pick. I'm going to pick Morning Glories Volume 2.
Oh, nice. I still have Volume 1 to read.
It came out last week.
Yep.
And I don't know if I recommended the first volume. I think I have.
We've talked about it.
I may have recommended it.
Yeah, I don't know if you officially recommended it.
If I haven't recommended it, I would recommend both, but I'm going to recommend Morning Glories Volume 2.
Sure.
Really good continuation of the first story arc from Morning Glories. You had me read the single issue when it first came out on the shelves, and I picked it up, flipped through it, was like, what the F are you having me read? But reading it...
I've only read the first issue, so I got to read the whole thing now.
Reading it in kind of a good chunk makes the book a lot more appreciative. This, the second volume dives into kind of each character, kind of in their own, each issue's like their own story, and kind of gives a little more back history on each character. So this one's a nice kind of step back from the main story, even though some of the main story is carrying through, but we get to see these individual characters a little bit more. Much better done. They did it a lot better in Morning Glories than they did in The Boys. When Boys took that segue to go kind of talk about everybody's thing, it felt too forced. This is a really natural flow to kind of origins of these characters, or kind of reasons why they do some things. So Morning Glories Volume 2 is my recommendation. So if you haven't picked up Volume 1, read that one as well. I think I've recommended it, I'm not sure, but I'll have to check when I get home.
Yeah. If not, you can recommend the whole series next week.
Why would I recommend the whole series next week? I gotta recommend something else.
You can recommend Volume 1 next week. Tell us what the book's actually about.
2 first and then 1. So
I don't have to tell you what Justice League of America is about. It's about the Justice League of America. I don't know what Morning Glories is about, so you have to tell me better on it next week when you sell Volume 2 or sell Volume 1. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and shut this episode down. If you want to hear this episode, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, go to www.geekbox.net. Did I say if you want to hear more of this episode? If you want to hear more of this podcast, I don't know if you want to listen to this episode again.
It's past 10 o'clock, dude. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, if you want to hear this episode again, go there too. www.geekbox.net. You can also subscribe. This is something I need to talk about more. You need to subscribe to us on iTunes.
Yes.
Because we get a lot of hits that way. Also, if you use iTunes, and if you listen to this podcast, and you listen to last week's podcast in which we did a whole episode based on the Suicide Squad, and you want to win that complete run of Suicide Squad...
Well, it's not the complete run, it's a...
Oh, it's a complete run of basically everything.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Donated to us by our lovely guest Gage. Jump over on iTunes to give us a nice glowing review. You can honestly give us a bad review if you don't like the episode. I'm not gonna bitch, but we like nice reviews. Any review made from last week going forward, we're gonna put in a big hat and pull out a raffle winner. Someone will win this giant.
Well, it's not a raffle. We're gonna read and pick and decide.
Yeah. Well, no, that's right. Yeah, we'll pick our favorite. Don't pick a dumb favorite. Wait, did we say that, or are we gonna do random? No, I think we're actually gonna pick one.
We're actually gonna pick one.
Okay, so you have to do a lot of good work and make a good, cool, funny, interesting, great recommendation for our podcast on there. And then we'll pick someone to win that full run, and I'm sure we'll have some other prizes as well.
You have till the end of October.
You will keep this going for a few weeks. We'll get as many...
Well, you have to have a deadline. If you don't have a deadline, nobody's going to write.
Okay, let's give it to...
the 31st of October.
October 31st.
That's the day
we'll do that.
I go back to work.
Okay, we'll do that. October 31st. So you have till Halloween. If you're not busy on Halloween night, leave us some reviews on iTunes.
Yeah.
If you want to send us an email, thecomicconspiracy@gmail.com, or you can go on www.geekbox.net and fill out the contact form there. You can go on forums.geekbox.net and leave us some wonderful comments on the comic thread, the comic forum in there. Talk to all our wonderful listeners, well as listeners of the Geekbox.
I've been off for a little while. I need to go back.
Yeah. You can go on conspiratorbrock.blogspot.com. He's working on our lovely Brock here is working on getting his own website up and running, so we'll get that soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And as mentioned in previous episodes, if you are a fan of digital comic books and you want to purchase comics digitally, you can go to digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. I've also got a bit.ly address if you're a bit.ly user, bit.ly/CC Dig, CC Digital, CC Dig, D-I-G. That's a short link there. That'll get you to our blog or our digital website as well. You can purchase digital comics, and and you can basically review them on your iPad, on your iPhone, purchase them through us. We make a little bit of money every time you do that. Greatly appreciated. Support the podcast, support the store. If you want to do physical orders through the store, feel free to give us a call. We're always willing to place any order you want for anything we have. Set up subscriptions, do whatever you want. It's pretty awesome. I've shipped out like 7 or 8 boxes in the back that need to go out.
It's like every week I come in on Monday and I'm like shipping like 6 packages.
Got like 5 or 6 things I'm waiting on payments for, all from listeners. You guys are the best. I love your money. I love you too, but I especially love your money. It keeps a roof over our head. Although I guess if we were homeless in California, it's not too bad. I mean, the weather's fine. But I actually like having a roof. It protects my comic books from the weather. And it gives Brock a place to sleep at night. So you sleep here at night, right? I mean, that's what I pay you for.
Yeah, I don't like. I can sleep here. Where am I going to sleep? In plain view of the glass? There's no space to sleep back there.
Just curl up on those adult books over there. Just build a little nest. All right. We're gonna get the hell out of here. We got girlfriends to go home to and sleep to be had. Wait, I gotta put this episode up tonight. God damn it! All right, we will catch you all next week for our big post 52 first month review.
Shit,
that's what we're gonna call it. All right,
big, like ginormous, like gigantic. You can't use big. You gotta use some different word.
Gigantic, a big love.
What?